working with Michael and Chris, and where we were working with, and validation calls and all that kind of stuff. And thank you for all of that. I mean, basically the goal now is just kind of getting there to the end of the process. And, by the end of today, you should hopefully be in a position to be able to make a fully informed decision. This is either the stars align, this is what you want to do, or maybe it's not the right thing for you. So I mean, that's really the goal. So there's no timeshare, presentation, a hard sell or anything at the end of this day. And of course, this is still two-way, so this is a great opportunity for you guys to be here, to meet Costa, to meet Justin, and Cody, and Halsey, and get a sense of the team and get a sense of what their relationship will be like. We'll get a little deeper dive. Some things will peek under the hood, if you will, but there won't be anything to be like, oh my gosh, I can only be about that. It's really, you've got a good foundation of information out here. You're getting a little bit more info. And like I said, the whole goal is at the end for both sides to just be in that position to be the stars align, or they don't. If they do, then that'll be great. I'll be talking with you after today if there's an approval and you guys are interested in going forward. I'll be able to kind of help you through any remaining next steps to get you into that. So I think you're all familiar with Fran Devco. I think I talked with you. I'm the Chief Development Officer with Fran Devco. Basically, we're a force. A lot of experience, a couple 100 years plus in franchising. And we work with great emerging brands like Costa. And I partner with them, just help just make sure certain things are set up in the beginning, training, support, and whatnot. We love this brand. This brand is on fire right now for the last year, the last 6 months, twice in a row. They're the number one franchise organizations, FCC network, are the fastest growing number one franchise concept. So pretty cool position. So, all right, that's pretty much it. And I think you'll enjoy this day, and I'll wrap up at the end. So,
hey, Sean. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm sorry
Morning.
to be at dinner last night. As Chuck probably told you, my daughter has double ear infections and found out she had RSV last night. So me and my wife were at the hospital because we have a 4-year-old. He's in that little minion phase. So it was a long night, but I appreciate you guys coming out, and I'm looking forward to getting to meet you today. So while my ambitions will never change, my priorities will always stay the same, and that's my family first always. So I appreciate you guys entertaining our staff that came in my place. Today is a fun day for us because I enjoy talking about the business because it's basically my third child, and I think what we're doing is something special within the industry. And so if any of you have been on the founders calls or listened to me talk for any extended period of time, you understand what we're trying to do. But Discovery Day is really about going through the nuts and bolts of the concept and exactly what separates us from everyone else and makes us a little bit different. So it's not working. I'm going to start off with a short intro about myself. I actually came from a background in finance. My background, I have an MBA and I have a Master's of Science in Finance from New England College. And I graduated in a time when there was a scarcity of jobs for young professionals my age. It was during that Great Recession, and it was tough to find a job. And so finance was the one avenue that was still seemed to have at least entry-level professional jobs. And I worked my way through different systems in TD Bank, which is retail banking, TD Ameritrade, which is brokerage, and then Merrill Lynch, and lastly, T. Rowe Price and asset management. And I kept going from place to place, job to job, organization to organization, wondering why nothing was sticking for me. And what it really came down to is I think that people who have entrepreneurial tendencies, it always scratches at, it's an itch that you got to scratch. And I think all of you are here because you probably have a similar itch that you want to scratch if you don't already have your own business to begin with. And so I thought that if I could find a business that didn't require all my attention, that I could do it on the side. Turns out I was having too much fun when I did start this business, and I jumped into it full time. I left my job at Q.U.I.C. And I had no intention to, because I had several securities licenses. I was pretty invested in my career, obviously two higher degrees. And so I wasn't expecting to leave my very secure job, much to the dismay of my in-laws, and leave that security for something that was relatively risky. And so I was looking at business models to kind of mitigate that risk. And I found that the quick loop model was one that was manager centric, but not skilled manager centric. And to me, that means the manager can run, the full-time employees can run the store when the manager is having his day off. And so as long as there's continuity of the store, the example I like to use is a pizzeria. If your pizza maker goes down, you're closed for the day, unless you go in and make the pizzas yourself. If your manager calls out sick at a quick loop, you just have your full-time guys run the store intermittently until it comes back, or has to be replaced. And so that was the appeal to me. And then I also saw there was some gaps in the industry and the services being provided by some of the legacy brands. And I felt there was ways to improve it. So I spent a lot of time at the time on Yelp, because Yelp was still relevant at the time. And reverse engineering the negative feedback that the other brands were getting and trying to figure out a model that was closer to what people wanted. And so that led me to this Harrisburg location right here, which I took over in 2014. And like I said, within 6 months, I ended up jumping into it full time, and I left my job at T. Rowe Price, and I was just having too much fun building a brand, and that was the part for me that was the most exciting. I always like to start Discovery Day off with the picture of our York building, because it's the aesthetic inspiration for our model store, which is the one in Cleveland, the single bay, and it's the one that we're building all over the country right now. We do have a 2-bay version that's up on the wall above the Q.U.I.C.K, and the Hanover store, which is the store we're going to be visiting later today, is the aesthetic inspiration for that building. When I first came to Hanover, this place felt the closest to home for me. I grew up in Portland, Maine, and I got a baseball scholarship in Maryland, and I met my wife in school, and that's typically how you get anchored somewhere. And I'm not a huge fan of Maryland. I actually relate more to this area. I currently live right over the border because my wife cannot come to grips with moving from Maryland to Pennsylvania, so we're literally 5 minutes over the line. And so Hanover has become my second home because it represents a lot of the same ideals that a place like Maine has. And when I first moved here, when I first took over the store here in 2018, the Hanover Historical Society gave us this photo on top, which is our Hanover location in 1943. And so what we found out was our building was a Gulf gas station. And what we also found out from newspaper archives was the building was used during World War II for rallying the community to ration gas. And so what they would do is they would hold these films that were basically propaganda films saying that it's patriotic to ration gas, because in this area on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if your license plate was started with an odd number, you could get gas. If it was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, then and you had an even number, you would go on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And so that was a fun little historical tie to our building, which was converted to a quick loop. As you can see, the 2 bays added on in from the bottom picture to the top picture. Just talk a little bit about the infrastructure of this business. I got together. Alex Snyder is my personal attorney. He's my business attorney, and has a wealth of experience in this area, and has become someone that I've relied on as a mentor and a voice of reason, because I'm very much entrepreneurial. I'm very much shoot from the hip, and he reins that in. Tim Leganke is a competitor of ours, but he's also a friend. I've been in this industry long enough to meet a lot of interesting people, and Tim shares the same values that we do. And although he does compete with us in the Ohio market, it's much friendlier than our competition that we have with some of the other brands. Justin Arnold, who is the head of our compliance He is a consultant for us as well as head of compliance. And then Jeff Duden, who is another mentor of mine, is part of the Fran DevCo team, but also an advisor for the company. If you ever get a chance, he was on Undercover Boss, really good episode for his company, Advanta Clean. Scaled his franchise to a large size and did what we're trying to do. And so one thing I've always believed in is try to surround yourself with people that have done what you're trying to do. And Jeff really exemplifies that. So we always start off Discovery Day with a fun exercise with the people that are in person. And this is actually a good opportunity to actually have introductions, because I typically already know everybody's names and a little bit about you by the time we do this. But these are our core values, and our core values are interwoven into every aspect of our business, whether it's our hiring practices, our vendors, our customers. And so we want the core values to be more than just a sign on the wall that doesn't really mean anything. We want our core values to be a part of everything that we do within the organization. So we call our core values our quick values. And what I like to do is just go around the room and ask everybody which core value most identifies with you and why. And then also, please just introduce yourself and your market. I think everybody here's from Texas, right? But pretty fairly different parts of Texas. And I've spent plenty of time in Texas. I was in
Somebody from Utah.
Oh, Utah. Okay. And I know that, I spent time in Laredo, and Laredo's what, like 12 hours from Dallas. So just because you're in Texas doesn't mean you're close to it. Whereas in some states like New Jersey, you're probably an hour and a half away tip to tip. So let's just start in the front.
Well, I was trying to read the
Everybody should have one packet right in front of you that might be easier to read, that has the core values in it. If it's not as easy to read on the board. We do have a lot of virtual attendees. Actually, this is a good transition point. We do have a lot of virtual attendees, and so we want to be respectful of their time and efforts as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge them more so than anything. But most of the exercises that we do throughout the day are going to be with you folks that are here inside the headquarters.
Oh, good. Nice to meet you. I'm Antonio Hornsby. I'm out of Leander, Texas. It's in the Austin metro area. Been in Texas all my life. When I see the core values, and I've started reading like the first two, but I feel like I really relate to Unified. I'm really an advocate of teamwork makes the dream work. I'm in the software engineering industry. I'm an engineering manager. And that's something that I'm always advocating for my team and to my team. Together we fail, together we succeed. So I really look at being accountability and very transparent throughout the team, whether it's a business as a whole or just my teammates. So I like that working cohesive and just being together.
Yeah, unified to us means all the things that you just laid out, and it largely to me means accountability. We're accountable to you for the support, the effort put in to make it worth your while, and you're accountable to us, brand standards, putting, wearing our brand as a badge of honor and upholding brand standards. And so, and it goes deeper than the franchise relationship as well. It's also with our employees, and we're accountable to them. I work for my employees; they don't work for me. And our employees work for the company, and they need to be good stewards of our brand, but they also work for the customers, and they need to be good stewards of the customers' property. So Unified is they're all major core values, and it's interesting. We've been doing this now for a year and almost a half now. Our first Discovery Day was March of 2021 in Cleveland, so almost a year and a half. And it's been an interesting progression to see what people pick and what they say, because you can't go wrong with any of them. But obviously, we're all individuals here. We all have different mindsets when it comes to business, when it comes to life. And so it's just, this has always been a fun exercise for us.
And I am Wally Owens from San Antonio. I think I've met just about everybody in the room except for Q.U.I.C.K. So thanks for having me out here today. And I would say I identify mostly with customers first. I have another franchise, I've had a franchise in the past, and our business has always been about serving the customers. And if we can meet their needs, solve their problems, then it is more than just a win-win situation. It's great.
And that was kind of the genesis of the business in the first place for me. I mean, when you can say a statement about an industry and everyone knows what business you're talking about without having to say the name of the business. If I were to say that there's been a brand on top for way too long that took, took its customers for granted and may have a credibility issue, I think most people in this room would know who we're talking about. And so I've sought out to create an environment within our stores that put the customers first. We're a very consumer-centric business. I make it a point when we hire employees to tell them we're a retail business, not an automotive business. And so if we can put that mindset from day one, then they're going to go into it a lot differently, viewing the customers as the priority as opposed to the service that they're doing as an automotive service. In the automotive industry, a lot of mechanics are used to just putting the car up on a lift, shooing the customer into a waiting room, and then being able to smoke cigarette, blast AC/DC, and and take their time and cuss with their coworkers and all that. And that's fine for that business, but that's not the business we're in. We're not in the full service business. We're in the oil change only business. And so when the customer sits in their car and they have full transparency of the service that's happening, then they're accountable to have that customer serve, or they're accountable to have that customer first environment. So, John, if your phone goes off again, I'm putting you in detention.
Okay.
Mr. Utah.
So I'm Josh.
Josh.
From Salt Lake. I'm kind of between customers first and kindness, honestly. I think they kind of both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I've got a Matco tool franchise. I've got a few of the independent shops where they come on the truck. They've got their kids with them.
You've been on a founder call with me. I think have I talked to you?
I don't know. I talk to a lot of people every day.
Yeah, no, unless it was another Matco tool owner, which is a possibility, but I definitely remember having a really good conversation with the Matco tool guy, or one of the trucks, maybe it was Cornwall. Awesome.
But no, I mean, just like you said, it's kind of the when they bring their kids on, just the kindness and customers first. I've got one of the little girls that come on, she comes in, she grabs a sucker, she does her thing, and then she's pulling tools off the shelves and throwing them on the ground, does her thing, and I just laugh at her. It's I don't know, the customers first is kind of huge to me.
Some of them are going to seem like common sense and kindness. I think if I were to actually have taken a tally over the last year of doing this, I would say kindness has probably been the most picked one, which seems like the most common sense one. But when it comes to kindness, it doesn't always translate. And I give people the benefit of the doubt, especially post-COVID. There's a lot of stressful. People had a lot of stress in their life, and working retail is not always the best when customers are giving you grief for something that's out of your hands. But kindness is something that's in control of every employee of every business, and unless you're the DMV, you don't have a monopoly on being able to be rude to people. So people have choices. They can go somewhere else, and if you're not kind, the example that I give. Last year around this time, my daughter was born. She just turned 1 not too long ago, and we had to board our dogs so that we could spend the night at the hospital. Our normal place, it was a holiday weekend, and our normal place was booked up. So we picked a different place in our town, and we went to it for the first time ever. And the price was actually a lot cheaper. The facilities were just as nice. The convenience was just as good. So all variables equal, and actually even better because of price. The woman at the front desk could not have acted like she could have cared less that we were there. And my wife turned to me and she's like, I don't care if we have to pay more money, we're not coming back here. And we board our dogs 4 or 5 times a year, and And that's several $100s of business, and you multiply that over, maybe you've lost 15 people over the year doing that, it could be $10,000. And that could be the difference between being able to give an employee a raise or get that new piece of equipment. And it was just that one interaction. And so that's, that's the power of kindness. And I tell our guys too, I'm like, look, I get everybody has a bad day. When I worked at TD Bank and retail banking, like you had to be on your A game every single day. There was no place to hide if you were having a bad day, so you had to fake it. I told my guys, like, if you're having a bad day, just let your manager know and just do the pit. Just do the pit the whole day. If you don't want to interact with someone, if you feel like you're on tilt and you're going to yell at someone for, giving you some tone, then just work the pit. And so, I empathize with retail workers in that sense. But we have to be kind every single time. So someone in the store needs to be picking that up. And like I said, that bleeds into our hiring practices. We literally have in our job ads looking for kind people. And so that's the first thing we talk about is, can you look someone in the eye and carry a conversation with them? Because that's more important than I can teach anybody in this room to do an oil change within a day. And so kindness is something, and carrying a conversation, those are kind of tools that some people can't. They either have it or they don't. Yeah.
I'm Breck from Houston. Kind of hard to elaborate on what everybody just said because I agree. It's important to put them first instead of anybody else. Make them feel special. Make them want to come back.
Customers first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't really have anything else to say.
Jay?
Other than that.
Jay, also from Houston. With the industry that I'm in, it's more of a quality over quantity, because if the quality ain't there, the customer ain't going to come back to begin with. And plus, word of mouth from where we are does a lot for business. So as long as your quality is good, and of course with the kindness of customers first, it really brings everything together.
Yeah. So when we put quality over quantity, I had a very specific thing in mind, but it has evolved over time to encompass a lot more things. But for me, within our industry, quality over quantity, we have we are a volume business, and one of our main KPIs is car count. And so we do care about quantity. But when it comes to the ability to long-term, long-tail, keep customers retention, they need to be quality interactions. They need to be quality sales. So if one of our competitors offers every single car that comes through their door a secondary service or a product, and they feel like they're pressured into something that they don't need, they're just throwing as much as they can at the wall to see what sticks. For us, internally, our corporate, in our corporate handbook, our motto is the most educated consumer will always choose us. For a lot of people who don't own a home, their vehicle is the most expensive asset that they have. And so we need to be good stewards of their property. And so if we can educate them on their car, as opposed to, preying on ignorance by trying to sell them things based on sticking your finger in the power steering fluid and holding it up in front of your face and saying, oh, this doesn't look right. And the customer has no idea what they're looking at. And, that kind of tactics has created a credibility issue in our industry. And so we've decided to kind of combat that by over-educating. Oh, you have an electric power steering. That's a new feature. Talk to them about their car. And so that means when it does come time for us to sell something, it goes from a cold sale to a warm sale, and then the quality of the sale is a higher quality. And so if maybe our competitor offers 30 for 30 and they score 10 sales, but if we offer 15 out of 20 because they were qualified, or 15 out of 30, and we sell 15, then that long tail translates to a higher conversion of sales of secondary products, and also translates to a higher conversion of repeat business. And so that's that's important to us, is the quality of the experience versus the quantity. We're not just trying to get them out the door. As much as our KPIs are bay time, car count, and ticket average. All three of those things do matter in quantity, but we do believe that long tail, if we put quality over quantity, then the quantity will follow. And then innovation is the only one we haven't talked about. One thing that I'm very proud of is, one of the best things about franchising is it becomes a laboratory of innovation. And so we get to experiment at the corporate level on different things, and I'm always trying new things. I was actually in the state of Pennsylvania, Waze's first commercial advertiser on the Waze platform before Google bought them. And so when it comes to innovation, we have, I think, the flexibility to move quicker. We're much better at Facebook ads and Instagram ads than our competitors. We're much better at some of the modern marketing techniques, and we also try things before most of them do, before, because the bureaucracy that gets created when your parent company is Pennzoil and Shell, or your parent company is a private equity group that has 13 other brands in its portfolio. It takes a while to get permission to try things. And so we, I do get to be a dictator sometimes, and I get to choose what and when we do. And but at the same time, what I'm most excited about in our franchising, and we have multiple stores open now, and I get to hear the feedback from our franchisees who are in markets that I've never been in, whether it's Mesa, Arizona, or Bedford, Texas, or Gulfport, Mississippi, and get that feedback and see if we can make a more holistic approach to this while keeping our core guiding principle of the oil change only model. And so I think franchising is great for innovation. One of my favorite things, we have them at the back of the room right now, is Munchkins. Munchkins were actually the product of a franchisee at Dunkin' Donuts. It's one of the most popular products. It was actually the wife of a franchisee. The old model, when they were hand cutting the donuts, was to throw the middle part away, and she was like, let's fry them and put them on the counter for 25 cents. And Munchkins were born. And then fish fillet was a product of a franchisee in Ohio, in a very religious area of Ohio. And on either Friday or Saturday, I keep getting it mixed up, they weren't able to sell meat, and so all the restaurants around them were just literally eating their lunch on those days. And a franchisee said to Ray Kroc, hey, can we sell fish fillet on Friday or Saturday? I don't know which one it is, apologize. But and that's how the fish fillet was born. So I'm excited for that part of the innovation part of the equation. So today is a mutual day in terms of kind of feeling each other out to make sure that this is a partnership that that makes sense to both parties. We do have a 15-year franchise agreement. That's longer than the average marriage in America these days. So we want to make sure that we're doing business with people that share values with us. And so as much as you're evaluating us, we're doing the same. We want to do business with people who we want to do business with. I think that's important. We don't put a massive emphasis on prior business experience, because the actual operations side, you'll find out throughout today that we're very much a procedure-driven company. We're very much a third-party company, third-party apps-driven company. What we make up for in terms of human endeavors, we really take in by doing processes, and that has allowed us to lower the overhead, which at the end of the day, if you've ever gone to one of the competitors and seen 5 people standing around and 2 people doing the actual service, that was one of the things that when I was creating our flow chart, which you should have a copy of our flow chart in the booklet, and we'll go over that later on today. By having these types of things, we've been successful at doing more with less, which translates to being able to give that oil change only experience. And then EQ over IQ, which basically to me is just being able to empathize with customers and see eye to eye with them, and have employees that are going to put retail first and automotive second. Don't get me wrong, we have to do the service correct, and it is an automotive service, but again, long tail, we believe that if you put the personal experience above the service, then you'll long tail have better returns. This is a video that we typically start off with. I don't have an agenda today. Cody,